Answer that. Okay, hello everybody. Hello to those of you who are live, in person sort of, and to all of you watching the recording. My name is Camille Leon. I am the founder of the Holistic Chamber of Commerce, and tonight we are here talking about how to choose the right marketing tools. And I'm just going to give you a small example from my real life and starting of the Holistic Chamber of Commerce as to why we decided to talk about this topic a little more in depth. So we started in 2010, a few years ago, and I was looking for an email marketing tool because, of course, even back then, email marketing was important, and now it's even more important. And in 2010, basically you had two email marketing tools that were like well heard of and commonly used. One was MailChimp and one was Constant Contact. I mean, I know there were others out there, but MailChimp and Constant Contact were like the ones for solopreneurs and people who are just starting out or side hustle. So I looked at them both and I was like, okay, MailChimp is free, but for me, it's not really user friendly. I tried it because it was free, but I found I didn't send any emails to my list because it wasn't user friendly and you couldn't call in with no number to call. Constant Contact was going to charge me money, but for me, it was actually a little more user friendly. And more importantly, there was a number I could call and they were good at picking up and they were good at walking me through. But that's a choice you got to make, right? What's your budget? Do you really need it for free? Maybe you have more time than you do money, or maybe you have enough money to figure out how to make it work the way that's best for you. And, you know, sometimes it just feels like it's a big decision. I got to make the right decision right away. I don't want to make a mistake. I don't want to waste, you know. Anyways, so first of all, I'm here to tell you if you make the wrong decision, you can, in most cases, return it or cancel it and try the other guys. I went with Constant Contact, by the way. It was well worth it. I used it, but I also use their customer line. And it's worse today because there are more things you have to choose and there are more options for each of those things. So now when you look at email marketing, there's way more than just two big dogs. There are a lot of big dogs you got to choose between, and social media platforms. And anyways, so that was why when I was having this conversation with Marjorie, I was like, oh, this is a good topic. Okay, so our featured presenter today is Marjorie Rhea of Zen Web Help. She has more than 20 years of experience in website content management, writing, and editing. She has worked with global corporations, national and regional businesses, and solopreneurs. From a Hollywood trade magazine to a financial services firm, and of course, she also does some consulting work with the Holistic Chamber of Commerce. And actually, I have a second project management client, and I use her for them as well because she knows her stuff. She is a longtime member of the Holistic Chamber of Commerce. We don't just represent the healing professionals, we also represent like-minded, holistically aligned business support people. And Marjorie knows the ins and outs, ups and downs, and peculiar complications of getting around on the web. She knows how to help her clients save money and time. But she also knows how to help her clients and all of the rest of us figure things out and make decisions about, you know, do I go with a freebie or not? Or look, I've got 10 choices that are all free, but what's worth my time? So we are going to learn how to avoid getting overwhelmed by all of the options available, find the ones that are best for us, each of us, what's best for you might not be what's best for me. I know, hard to believe, but it's true. And then this way you can focus on communicating with your current and potential clients and customers, no matter how that is. So let's get right into it, because there is a lot to cover and only so much time. And we do want to have some time for Q&A. So Marjorie, we started by talking about how many tool types are out there these days. And you said that there are 9 tool types. And I was like, what? So what is a tool type, and what are the 9 that are relevant or important?
So generally speaking, that's how the different tools that people use for their digital marketing are divided up. I personally think in the future there might be another one for accessibility, but that's a whole nother thing. So there's about 9. I have a list here. Do I share screen now?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Okay, hold please. Okay, so this is the list. I think most people have heard most of them. There's the graphic design. The graphic design is like Canva. That's the most familiar to most people. I do not include Photoshop and Affinity in this type of tool, because to me, you have to know a lot. There's a learning curve. The graphic design tools for me are the ones like that have templates that make you look professional from the get-go. They don't require a lot of training. And they're website builders like Wix and Duda and what else? Weebly and really.
GoDaddy has one. Squarespace is one.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
for the DIY people, there's email marketing, like you mentioned. There's MailChimp is the infamous one to help you crank out your marketing emails. Analytics is it's different in the sense that when you talk about a digital marketing analytic tool, most people assume you mean the one that applies to your whole website. But analytics features are built into almost every one of these tools. There's surveys and form tools. Most people, that's self-explanatory. Digital asset management tools, which put all of your assets into one place so that everyone working on your team knows where everything is. Collaboration tools, I think they're for bigger enterprises. My neighbor entertains me with her tales about, is it Slack? The Slack collaboration tool. And what happens when people put the wrong, when people text the wrong thing onto the wrong Slack channel, and then it causes chaos anyway. And then there's advertising tools, which are for advertising campaigns. And there's the social media scheduler, that's what I call it, but I think other people call it a social media manager. And as an example of how many of these tools there now are, I compiled this list of just the design tools. This is all the ones that I found. I've never even heard of them. Maybe 4. And so if you were looking for one of these tools and trying to narrow that down, I think my brain would explode. I was trying to find a social media scheduler last year, and it was very difficult. And it went on for weeks, and I agonized. I realized I didn't know enough, and so I thought I need to come up with a strategy that takes the frustration out of this. The good thing about this type of search is that once you've done it once, you sort of innately, you discover there's an innate design to all of these tools. They're becoming more and more uniform, almost like the big ones are more like utilities now. That's the best way to put it. And their organization is almost like freeway signage in the US. That's how I'm thinking of it now. It gets easier and easier. So once you learn one, even if you're just looking at beginner materials that introduce you to one, it helps you to learn the others. So there's that thing to look forward to. It doesn't have to be a grind choosing all these tools.
Okay, so wow, I had no idea, by the way, that there were this many graphic design tools. I do know there are a lot of social media schedulers, social media managers, I guess, and also I have seen a scary number of collaboration tools. Like we have a small team, but we have a lot of collaborative projects and we also use consultants. And so I've, looked at too many of those collaboration tools. And by the way, I don't like any of those yet. So what I want to know is, once we have a crazy making list like this, where do we start?
Well, I'm going to assume three things that the theoretical researcher is starting with, and that is that the person already knows her budget, how big she plans to make her business, how much growth she plans for her business to have in the next year or so, and she'll be looking at what tools she already has and if they're compatible with the one she's looking at. So budget, scalability, and compatibility. That's sort of on you. I won't be covering those. We'll just assume that you're looking for those. If you want to, I would say the first thing is you got to narrow this list down, first of all. And the first way to start is just learn about the tool itself, that category itself, the social media management category. And the way I do it is I just do a search for beginner plus social media management category, just to get so that someone out there will tell me what their opinions are of the things I need to look out for. That's where I start, as if I'm a newbie. I start with beginner plus the tool. And then once I know a little more, if I've picked up some tips about what to avoid, what to look out for, then I feel I can go on to the next search, which is to start compiling my list. This list I have here, I actually used an AI program to compile it because if I tried to do it using Google, it would have taken list after list after search query after search query. Show me the first level of the search query would be just show me the best graphic design tools, and then show me the alternatives to those. And then even then I wouldn't have acquired all this list. It seems to be the limiting factor of Google. So my second
Google gives you too many I mean, talk about a way to get too many options right off the bat. Google is a great way to get too many options right off the bat. Can I ask though, this is partially because I'm curious. So do you have I know you want to teach us how to decide for ourselves. So would that be a different tool type, AI tools?
I mentioned that because I just was introduced to it recently and I was intrigued by it. I think it's for the early adopters.
Okay.
Or early adapters, whichever it is. And I was going to give an example of it at the end of my presentation.
Okay. So what's is there now what do I want to do if I'm trying to compare? Is that another formula I type in?
Yeah, so assuming you've gotten yourself grounded in the basics of the whole tool category, then what I would do is I would go to I got this thing on top of it. So the first search string was the beginner. I'm a beginner, I know nothing, and I already covered that. So now I've got a little more information, just enough to be dangerous. So now I'm going to find the main players. And the search I would do would be just use best plus the category tool. So the best digital advertising tool.
Okay. Cool.
And the way I do it is over the years, I've acquired, you become familiar with the type of people, the reviewers that you like to listen to. For me, they're usually old school publications like Tech Radar and PC Mag. And I should say, I've never even owned a PC, but I look at PC Mag because their reviewers with any kind of internet tool will compare and contrast a multiple of them. And they'll talk about the good and the bad, and they've tried the tools themselves. So that's what I look out for. I also, strangely enough, when I'm looking for articles of these reviews, I look for paragraphs that have more than one sentence, like densely written. You might actually like videos better, but I kind of go for these old tech publications and their best of 2024 reviews. But as you do this more and more, you'll come up with your own resources. I'm reacting to my dog. I'm sorry, I can barely, I have an allergic reaction. So as you do search number 2, you're going to acquire, first of all, you're going to build your list, but also you're going to becoming familiar with reviewers. Maybe you like videos better, maybe you like publications. And then the next search query would be, you're going to add to the list by getting the lesser known or the less the smaller scale and not quite as what's the word? They don't have all that money behind them, is what I'm saying. So, and also, often they're quirky and they're new. And you want to add those to your list too, because they might have something you need. They might be a little more avant-garde. They might be a little more adventurous. So typically you just look for alternatives to whatever the most famous one you've ever heard of is. Alternatives to Canva, alternatives to Yoast. Yoast is SEO. And then you should have like 7 to choose from at that point. And you're also as you go, you're going to be looking at how much it costs and whether you like the way they speak, whether you like the way they present themselves. And that in itself is going to cut your list down. So then once you find some that you're willing to work with, then you can do another search and go back to the beginner. Go back to the beginner strategy. And now you're a beginner learning about that, that new brand that you've learned about. It might be a video, it might be videos produced by the company itself, which are, they're okay. I like videos by clients. There's also some companies have a huge fan base. Those are good too.
Yeah, but let's all remember when you're watching a video that is produced by the company, right? It is a pitch video. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but those videos are telling you only the good. They are not pointing out the potential weaknesses or the things that are unpopular. So that is definitely something to keep in mind when you're reading an article or watching a video. If you want that balanced viewpoint, that's one reason why reviewers are out there. Okay, so we've narrowed down our list to 5 to 7 brands for whatever. Now, what are the things that we need to consider when we're deciding on the 1 or 2 that we're actually gonna take time to try out?
Right. Once you're focusing in on one, there are about, I want to say there's 10 things that I look for, sometimes out of just previous bad experiences, and then because I've been unpleasantly surprised by some. But I wanted to say something to your point about marketing materials. Not necessarily trusting everything the marketing materials say, and that is that regarding search string number 2, you want reviewers who've compared and contrasted and tried it themselves, because there are a lot of reviews who they're just compiling marketing details from marketing materials. They don't know anything. They might look like they're objective, but they're just cranking out marketing content, and they're not even experts in the field. So it takes like I don't know, 6 or 7 paragraphs of reading before you get the gist of if these people have actually tried the tools themselves. But okay, so the list of things that I've learned to look for once I know that I'm interested or intrigued by a certain tool is, again, besides your budget, whether it's scalable and whether it's actually going to work with the tools you have, is first and foremost, just for your peace of mind, start with what I call the catastrophic failure fear. You won't have one for every tool. For me, it's only the email marketing tools. And I say this because in my corporate life, in a 10-year period, I think I sent out 40,000 emails with test in the subject line. So I don't want that to happen again. And the way I got around it was using the beginner plus the name of the company search function. I just watched people go through the dashboard of different tools, of different email marketing tools. And I concluded that there's no really way for me to avoid that if I'm working too fast and not paying attention. It's not idiot proof. I just have to live with that fear. But your fear might be different. It might be that you're going to lose all your data, in which case you might want to look for backup services, or that you delete the homepage, which I've never done ever. And in which case you want to know that there's going to be a customer service person there right away to tell you how to find your homepage again. Which leads me to the next point of customer service. And I recently had a bad experience with customer service. I thought that they had live chat. That is, I thought live chat meant if I have a problem, for example, I accidentally published a website, did not mean to, that I could contact customer service and a live person, a competent person, intelligent, articulate person would tell me what to do. But what a live chat turned out to be was a chat thing window. An Autobot answered my first level of question, and it wasn't the answer. And I said, you didn't answer my question. So they sent me the second tier, sent me to community documents, support documents. I think it was a discussion forum that was built around clients, customers using the tools and asking questions. That didn't have the answer. So I went back to the chat and said, I'd like to talk to a live person. And I was then told someone would email me within the next 48 hours. It was 48 hours. Meanwhile, I have a live site with crap all over it. So be very careful and specific about what customer service is, if that's important to you. And then the next thing to look for would be tied into customer services, support documents. Some people don't need customer service. They feel they can figure out most problems by themselves. And you might want community. You might be willing to rely on the documentation provided by the company. And if it's a really popular tool, you can rely on documents provided, built up by the community of users. And that can be awesome. Like WordPress is amazing. I don't even know the extent of it. And I've been in user groups for 4 years now with WordPress. And I learned a new support feature every single time I go to a user group meeting. So you might, if that's enough for you, then you might investigate that. Another thing to look at is free trials. A free trial is a good way to just learn the dashboard. That's what I use it for. How fast I discover how fast I can move through the dashboard. And you very quickly learn what it can't do, because if you're, say you're going through your usual steps of putting out an email marketing, a marketing email, then you very quickly are told, no, you can't do this, you have to pay. But there are a couple of caveats with free trials. The first is that if you then choose at the end of the trial not to go with that company, you might not be able to export the data that you acquired while you use the trial. And the second thing has to do with the company you mentioned in your intro, the email marketing company, which became infamous and associated with spam in the early Wild West days of spam. They had a free, I believe they've paid plans now, but they are so associated with spam that there are rumors and suspicions that I've heard voiced many times that mail servers around the world, some of them, not all, will just block anything from that company. So if you're really serious about that company, you might, about email marketing, you might not want to choose that one. Another thing that can be an unpleasant surprise is the cost increase after 1 year of a website builder. So even you might be sucked in by a really cheap price per month, like a really awesome deal, and then after 1 year, it will double. And by that time, you've got a live working site, and switching it to a new platform is a pain in the patootie. So you really want to look at that closely. It's not uncommon at all for the cost to double after the first year.
I did that. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just going to say I did that once with like an apartment. It was like, get your first month free, sign up. And I was not paying attention to the details of what my new price, it wasn't first month. It was like what my rent was going to raise to after 6 months. And fortunately I was in a position to, deal with that, because that's a much bigger deal than, something like an email list. But so true. I mean, because there's a lot of little add-ons and upsells. So you might be looking at their basic price, but at the end of a year. Anyways, thank you. I didn't hardly ever thought of that one. But
yeah, it's that small print, and it's mostly with the really low cost
right.
web builders like Namecheap. May they rot in hell. So on to roles and permissions. This roles and permissions can also be referred to as team members, and I think Meta calls it partnering. Partners, yeah. If you think that in the future you will want other people to be able to sign in and use your tool, that sounds terrible, use the tool with their own passwords, then you'll want to make sure that the plan you're looking at, allows for that. That's generally considered, it's called roles and permissions. You'll usually be charged more for every separate sign-on. And one caveat here is that sharing a password is really frowned on. It's also it's a lot more difficult now that people have two-factor authorization. And contractors and freelancers and developers, they will really hesitate to share someone's password because it makes them liable, or they feel like they might be blamed for something. So they'll hesitate to do that, and you might want to keep that in mind. As an example, Canva wants $99 for every new person who has permission to be on the account. I think that's right. First $200 base and then $99 a year for every other person. Okay, the next thing to consider, if you are a WordPress person, okay, WordPress is a platform on which many websites are built, and it's about 40% of the world's websites now. They talk to digital marketing tools via this thing called a plugin. And a WordPress plugin is its own animal. You have to research it separately. It doesn't always work the way the digital marketing tool developer, creator wanted or envisioned. Sometimes they're better, but oftentimes they're worse. So you need to consider that if you're thinking of going WordPress. And also there will be more than one plugin for that tool, it just makes it that much more confusing. So now there's a little thing I learned about social media schedulers, which I did not know. Maybe it's common knowledge, but it was a surprise to me. A social media scheduler, of the three I chose, of the three I looked at anyway, they will not work with personal Instagram accounts. They will only work with a business Instagram account that is already connected to a Facebook business page, and they have to have the same business name. Did not know that. Okay, and the last thing you might want to try, once you've narrowed it down, once you've narrowed your list down and you're thinking seriously about choosing one, is ask around to your peers, and if someone has an affiliate link and that you can save them money. And also, if affiliate links are your thing, you could even look at the affiliate programs for all of these tools, if that's your thing.
Oh, that's really that's a great idea.
And that's
And
about,
you could, like, go to Facebook or LinkedIn and ask your connections there, right? What's your favorite email marketing tool? What's your favorite? I mean, I know a lot of people go and will, what's your favorite cell phone carrier or sort of thing. So, but
exactly. I have a friend who has affiliate links with tools she doesn't even use. And she gets like $400 a year for them. So anyway.
Okay, there you go. A new side hustle to add to whatever. All right, then are there things that are coming down the pipeline as well? Like, what should I be aware of? What should we be aware of for the future in terms of, yeah.
Well, one trend that's been building and it's just going to keep building is accessibility. And I think Dottie Scott mentioned this on her last meeting. And I think most people are exposed to it now on website builders. There are little error messages come up when you use the wrong font on the wrong background. And it says, this might not be visible to some people. Try again. But that's going to become more and more and more and more present in anything digital. So, you can hear a lot of emphasis about that. And then more immediately in September, Chrome will be forbidding all third-party analytics trackers. And that's going to make advertisers change the way they advertise, change the way they track and get data from. And
So cookies, you're talking about cookies.
cookies, yes. So there's going to be a shuffle toward different ways to get that type of data from people who come onto websites and social media. And there's even a theory that more email marketing is going to be a bigger thing. So that's another thing.
Okay, so this is great. This is really wonderful. We're about to stop the recording. And no, we don't want to stop the recording yet. We're going to open up the Q&A. But Marjorie, before we really do that, do you have any free giveaways, any helpful hints, tip sheets? And if so, can you tell us about it and put the link in the chat?
Okay, for those of you who are early adapters and like AI, you can use ChatGPT as a search engine and you get a much faster body of data about with a query. And I found it really, really fun. And here are, if you go to my website at /HCC, there are sample queries that you can use to tailor it to your situation and then plug it in and then see what happens. So for example, a 5-sentence query that describes what you are, what your business is like, what you want. It generated a list of 7 different tools that applied to the situation, and it had a description, and it was like 10 minutes of work. It was amazing.
Yeah, it's that's what I've heard. That's what I've heard about AI, is it can really save you a lot of time. And in saving you a lot of time, it saves you the money that might be associated with that time as well. So, oh, dang it. I think I'm going to have to go download your freebie. And I will, by the way, just affirm Dottie Scott does have on her website. So her website is premiumwebsites.net. And she does have an accessibility tool that is available on her website. And I haven't said it yet, but it is in that link you just got from Marjorie. Marjorie's website is zenwebhelp.com. I think that's because her help on the web just puts you in a Zen state. Is that?
That was the goal.
Okay, so we're open for Q&A, and also if you want to put some of your information about your business, your website, your email address, your phone number in the chat, that is available. So anybody? Trisha?
Is Tula software also something you're familiar with? Oh, that's a website builder.
No, I'm
Not
sorry,
familiar
no.
with it. Okay, it's a yoga group. They do a really good
How
job.
do you
Oh, is that
spell
the
it?
one that Lori uses?
I don't know. I don't know what Laura uses for her yoga site. Might be. Tula, how do you spell it?
TULA software.
Oh,
They count all your yoga classes for you. You don't have to call a teacher. It's all there for you. Just a really nice setup, but I didn't know if that was in the realm of what you
no,
know.
it's interesting. I have heard of a long time ago, we were connected to Mind Body software, which would also be Mind Body also does scheduling. What I've heard about Mind Body now is that they are quite pricey. So Mind Body is actually now a public company traded on the stock market, which means, right, profitability is profitability, if you're an investor, is a good thing. You want it. But if you're going to be a customer or a client, it means you might be spending more money than you want. And I've heard that MindBody software is priced accordingly. So I haven't heard about Tula. So nice to hear about that. Thank you.
Mhm.
All right. Anybody else? Any other questions or software that you love you should share too?
This is good information. It just makes me realize I should get a VA.
Well, I would imagine that some of those questions and considerations would also be really relevant for choosing a VA or a VA
Exactly.
company, right? Like you
Yeah.
want to ask them what programs and what platforms do they already know, right?
Mhm.
So that's another use for this kind of decision-making process. Yes, I totally
Yeah.
agree. Like sometimes somebody once said to me, Camille, you could save some money if you ran the HCC entirely on your own. And I was like, no, I don't want to save that money because I don't want to run it entirely on my own. And I love my team. And Lori, you've got your hand up.
So when I first started my coaching business, I went with GoDaddy to create my own website. And it was easy enough at the time. And then at a certain point, I thought I really need to update this. And I started working on it. And I thought, no, I'm hiring somebody to do this website. And I'm so glad that I did. And I'm kind of interested to know if other people have had the same experience where you just get to the point where trying to take the time, even though the tools are kind of plug and play, it's not exactly plug and play. At least that's what I found. And I had some experience from way back in the day with creating websites, and I just felt like it was too time consuming. So finally just decided to take the jump and hire somebody to do it. The other thing is a social media schedule that I discovered that I really like is Social Curator. And the reason that I like it is because, well, it has built-in AI, so you can type in, whatever it is that you want to post about, and which is really nice when you know the topic, but you just can't get a start. You just need the first few sentences or a paragraph or something. And then if you need to, you can completely start over. But there's training built into it. There's community built into it. There's a calendar built into it. And it took me a while to land on that one. I did Hootsuite and, the list of the other ones that everyone thinks of. But that one but Social Curator just feels really friendly to me. And, if people are looking for something, that might be something to check out.
It's always nice to hear about different tools that work, especially
Mhm.
ones that we've never heard of. Like I've never heard of Social Curator. I have
Mhm.
heard of Hootsuite. We used to use Hootsuite, and now we use Publer, I think. Which prior to hearing about Publer from Marjorie, I had never heard of that either. So from that point of view, I kind of like social media as a way to get new ideas and find out what are some tools that people are using. And by the way, I noticed that while we mentioned social media managers, we didn't actually talk, and I do think it's equally relevant when you're deciding social media platforms. Like some people are going to tell you that you need to be on every single one. You need to be on YouTube, and you need to be you need to be on TikTok. I mean, because if you're going to go viral, of course you need to be on TikTok, and you need to be on this, and you need to be on that. And I'm just going to say, if you are basically you, or maybe you and a VA, like really pick 1 to 2. Don't try to be on every single one of. We used to actively work. I think we used to actively work 5 different channels or something. And I have recently cut back because some of them just weren't growing, right? Sometimes you got to weed the garden because that protects your time, and your time is money. So, find those that are user friendly and actually support you and what you're doing. But I will put a plug in for LinkedIn because I love it so much.
Laurie, excuse me, Camille. Laurie, would you put the reference to that in the chat, please?
Mhm.
And I started using an AI tool for social media called NowSite recently. You know NowSite? I'll put it's a referral link. I'll put a link in there.
Yeah.
It helps you develop content for social media. It helps you reply to social media posts. And if you like something that somebody else has done, you can copy it and ask it to reword it. And it'll have a similar message that you don't see any connection to the one. And so I've been using that, and it makes posting and replying to posts, responding to posts very, very easy. And that's pretty cool. So I just put the link into it.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. I am going to put in the link for Monday's quarterly kickoff summit, which, by the way, yes, I know it is a tongue twister, and I used to be a Quaker, so every so often I call it a Quakerly kickoff summit. But if you haven't signed up yet, I would love for you to sign up And you are also welcome to share it with friends, clients, colleagues. It is for members and non-members. And yes, it's on April 1st because, well, A, not only is it the first day of the new quarter, but B, it's a day that's, you know, a little bit playful and a little bit lighthearted. All right, is there anything else for the topic, or should I just close up the recording and then we can talk about whatever else we want to talk about for the next few minutes? Okay. Let me find that button.
Mhm.
Stop recording.